Alright, so moving on to the bass line, let's talk about first how I came up with the idea. So there are really kind of two ways to come up with a bass line. You can either imagine it, or you can dive straight in and experiment and just start drawing notes in. Now, of course, the second method still requires a bit of imagination, but you can sort of spark ideas in this way that then develop into a fully fledged track. Now, I actually did it the first way, the sort of imagination method, if you like, and I'll just talk about how to kind of maximize the success of that method. So one of the ways is to find a similar song to what you want to make. Now remember, I had been listening to a load of Cyberpunk style music to get some inspiration, and then I'll just be humming a tune that had like sort of stuck in my head as I'm doing something. I think I was actually like making toast or something at the time, and as I play the song in my head, I start to kind of imagine it going in a different way. So maybe I'll imagine the pitch going up at the end of the bar, or imagine it with a different rhythm or a different sound. And a good way to kind of force this, or not force it, but encourage your imagination to change, is to play it back in your head. But then when you get to the end of a section, like going from a verse to a chorus, just imagine how that bass line or whatever part it is that you're imagining, how it would go differently in that new section. And just carry on like that. And before you know it, you're humming a completely new tune. And hopefully it will sound really good in your head. Now that's what I did. And I did, I think, have to leave my toast and rush back to the studio, as is often the case, in order to get the idea down. Now, as you're about to see, it is a really simple idea. And that is kind of one of the keys to this method, is to try and keep the ideas that you come up with simple. And in my head, it sounded great. And I did manage to recreate it pretty well, which is of course sometimes not the case when you try this method, or it ends up sounding quite different to what it was in your head, which might or might not be a bad thing. So it's not like this idea kind of always works, but it is still one of the most successful methods I use to come up with ideas. All right, with that being said, let's load up Vital. So I'm just going to load up an instrument track, Vital, make sure it's stereo, of course. And before I go any further, I'm just going to turn that down a bit. Let's go somewhere around -7 roughly. So if this is your first time in Vital, don't worry if this all looks quite complex. We're only going to be using the presets in this tutorial. If you do want to know much more about how to use Vital, then just go to your search engine and add tutorial to Vital Synth, so Vital Synth tutorial. And if you scroll down to the sort of first organic link, you should see this one from us, borntoproduce.com, Vital tutorial. And here there's just like a whole series of videos on how Vital works, how to use it to make sounds, and then we've got different sound examples. So we'll show you how to make different sounds from the ground up, explaining all the kind of features as we go. And we're always adding to that as well. So if you want to know more about Vital, definitely check that out. But for now, like I said, we're going to load up a preset. So we go to the hamburger menu, go to Open External Presets, navigate to wherever you downloaded the files, go to the work files, Vital Presets, and we're going to load in the BTP lead cyber mod. So just double click that, and this is the sound that we've got. Now this is going to make up one layer of the bass line. There are 3 layers in total, but we'll sort of talk about that in the next lesson a bit more. For now, I just want to get in the actual pattern that we used. So I will bring in the MIDI for that. So again, if you navigate to where the work files are, the MIDI pattern, just grab the bass line and drop that onto our Vital track. In fact, while we're here, let's just rename this quickly. Just going to call it Bass Cybermod 1, and then duplicate that over so we've got a full 4 bars. Now that's a bit too low in pitch, so I'm going to actually just go into the MIDI. I'm going to Control A to select all, and then I'm going to move that up 1 octave so it's on A2. You will need to do the same in your DAW. Okay, so that is the pattern for the bass line. So let's have a look at it, and I'm just going to discuss a bit about how it came about. Now, as you can see, it's very, very simple. We've only got 3 notes being used. And if I just zoom a bit into the first bar, we can see that we've got some fairly heavy swing on here. So obviously the offbeat, the note is perfectly on, but when we go to the 16th, you can see that there's quite a big gap between any notes that are falling on the odd 16ths. So just to show you what that is 1/64th of a bar. That's how much the swing is, and that's the grid that I used when I created this. So apart from that, it's dead simple. And that's what I had in my head, what I had sort of imagined, but I really wanted that sort of lazy swing feel to it, which is why we did go for the 1/64th swing on it. And that's really it. It was dead simple, but it does sound pretty nice. But of course, having this on its own is not enough. The bass sound is very much incomplete. So we need to add some more layers to it to make it sound much fatter and thicker. And we also need to sidechain the bass to really kind of gel it to the beat, which we're going to look at in the next lesson. All right, thanks very much for watching. See you in the next one.